Eiley Smith, a young chef, had just bought a green snake to make soup. To her astonishment, the snake transformed into a handsome man who not only sought her blood but also cast spells on her, claiming he needed her to draw out another white snake. The plot thickened unexpectedly. He-Man's snake tail wrapped around her, knocking over the ginseng she had bought for the soup. The ingredients sprang to life.
This was no ordinary day for Lily.
John Lee, your time has come.
Lily shuddered and stepped back several paces.
What kind of twist is this?
She realized she was the reincarnation of John Lee, cursed with a snake-shaped birthmark on the back of her neck, ensuring she would never find love.
So that's why I've been single for 24 years.
Are you going to end me?
Lily looked at the half-human, half-snake figure before her, her tongue trembling in fear.
Sir, I'm just a small-time chef. Please, have mercy.
Earlier, a customer had ordered a special soup, prompting Lily to buy a small green snake from the market. As she filled the pressure cooker with water, a bang resounded, and a handsome man appeared before her.
If I had taken any longer, I'd probably be in your pot by now.
His snake tail slid into her long skirt, coiling around her leg.
With my cooking speed, you'd already be in the customer's stomach by now.
What did you say?
I said you are truly elegant.
The man placed his hand on her delicate neck.
It looks so easy to snap.
Her legs gave out, and she stumbled to the ground.
John Lee, your time has come.
Lily stepped back several paces in fear.
What kind of twist is this?
Realizing her reincarnation, she understood why she had been single for 24 years. The curse he placed on her ensured she would never find love.
David Johnson cruelly rejected me when I confessed my love to him.
David had said,
I'd rather be gone, gone forever, than be with you, Lily Smith.
He kept his word, having a car accident the next day. Lily even knelt at his grave and cried.
If I really am John Lee, then you must be Michael King.
As soon as she spoke, the temperature around her dropped.
You're just as brainless as you were in your past life.
So, you're not, then who are you?
Who I am is not important.
He grabbed her collar.
I need you to help me.
Tell me what you need, and I'll do my best.
Help me cultivate.
He licked his dry lips.
This cultivation, is it proper?
Why don't you find out?
He grabbed my collar firmly.
I need you to help me.
I tried to sound calm.
Tell me what you need, and I'll do my best.
Help me cultivate, he said, licking his dry lips.
This cultivation, is it proper?
Why don't you find out?
His grip tightened on my collar, desperation evident in his eyes.
I need you to help me.
I tried to keep my cool, feeling the tension in the air.
Tell me what you need, and I'll do my best.
Refusing him might lead to dire consequences.
Help me cultivate, he said, licking his dry lips.
This cultivation, is it proper?
Why don't you find out?
Ethan Green grabbed my chin forcefully. I tried to push him away, but he overpowered me, pulling me into a rough kiss, prying my mouth open.
I felt something foreign entering my body, my eyes widening in horror as I looked at him.
He finally let go of me, and I clutched my chest, gasping for air.
This is a love curse. It activates every half-month. You'd better behave.
Strangely, as I looked at the man in front of me, only one thought filled my mind. Hesitantly, I placed my hand on his chest.
Do you want my help?
I resisted the urge, pulling back my hand, my knuckles white. Ethan seemed a bit surprised. Gritting my teeth, I walked into the bathroom, immersing myself in cold water. An hour passed, then two. I gripped the edge of the bathtub, a thin layer of sweat forming on my forehead. It wasn't until dawn that I weakly climbed out of the tub. Ethan was meditating in the room, surrounded by a dark green mist. His snake tail had reappeared.
You actually resisted the love curse. Why lips were pale? Why are you entangling a regular person like me?
Because I need you to lure out Sophia.
As he spoke, his hand brushed my face, his slick tongue lightly licking my skin.
Such a pity. If you had just asked for my help, you wouldn't have to suffer.
I turned away from him, my face stern. Ethan's expression darkened.
Ungrateful.
In early April, Westlake was shrouded in a thin layer of mist, the full moon high in the sky. It was 3 a.m, and the streets were empty.
Leifeng Pagoda has been rebuilt long ago. Do you really think Sophia is still trapped under it?
Ethan bit his finger, drawing a complex symbol in the air. The eerie green light made his pale face look even more frightening. The ground's magic circle suddenly emitted a strange light, countless small snakes emerging from the earth, making my skin crawl. Ethan chanted a spell, and I was suddenly lifted into the air, landing at the center of the circle. The entire formation began to rotate slowly, a searing pain flaring at the back of my neck.
Distant, ethereal voice echoed.
800 years and you still won't let me go.
A gentleman in white robes approached, holding an ancient umbrella. When he saw my face, his calm expression cracked.
My wife, Alice, is it really you?
Seeing the man before me, my head throbbed with pain.
Ethan, I'll return the soul-calling umbrella to you. Let Alice go.
Sophia tossed the umbrella over, then flew into the formation, wrapping her arms around my waist. Sophia chanted a spell, causing the formation to violently react. Ethan's face turned terrifyingly dark.
The umbrella, I want. Her, I also want.
Ethan's robes fluttered, his hair whipping wildly. The soul-calling umbrella slowly rose, its dark patterns shimmering. A flash of white light, and I fainted. Still sleeping. A basket landed on me before I even opened my eyes, and I was greeted by the strong scent of medicinal herbs.
I got up and looked around. Rows of medicine drawers and ancient furnishings filled my view.
My Baoji hall doesn't keep idlers. Hurry up and gather herbs.
A middle-aged man in silk, with a big belly, barked at me. Under his threats, I took the basket and walked out.
The bustling streets, vendors shouting, and various shops on both sides caught my eye as I walked. Where did Ethan Green and Sophia White go? How do I get back?
As I pondered, I stepped on something. Picking it up, I saw it was a jade hairpin.
Miss, you found my hairpin, a gentle voice said, reminding me of the scene where Sophia first met John Lee.
The man turned around, smiling, but his face was Ethan Green.
I threw the hairpin back at him. He gracefully tied up his long, ink-black hair and inserted the jade hairpin, looking every bit the refined gentleman. What are you up to? Where is this place? Take me back.
Grabbing his collar, I stood on tiptoe, glaring at him. He gently brushed his sleeve. I have never met you before, Mississippi. Why are you angry with me? It felt like punching cotton. Was he really not Ethan? Did I mistake him?
I scrutinized him. His eyes were downcast, and though he looked about 70 to 80% similar, Ethan was more intense. Their temperaments were entirely different. I imitated ancient manners, clasped my hands, and bowed. I apologize for my rudeness. You resemble someone I know.
Oh. He seemed intrigued.
Well, that scoundrel usually takes advantage of others. I mistook you for him and got angry.
The man's smile stiffened, and I quickly slipped away.
This time travel is not my forte. I'm a cook, not a herbalist.
I grumbled as I picked herbs among the flowers and plants. Standing on a cliff, I saw a group of people in Taoist robes carefully carrying a red treasure chest.
James, is this mirror of life really that magical?
Of course, it can reveal past lives and future ones. Many creatures covet it. We must carefully deliver it to Michael King.
Hiding in the bushes, I remembered the blurred face I saw in the mirror that day. Confused, I carried the basket back. The sky suddenly darkened, and a fierce storm began. The rain battered the willow trees by the embankment. I stood by the shore, with no boatman in sight and no place to take shelter.
Miss, we meet again. I turned to see the man holding an umbrella, smiling at me.
Wiping the rain from my forehead with my sleeve, I still wasn't used to seeing Ethan's face speaking so politely.
A small boat approached the shore. Sir, please board the boat.
I see the rain won't stop soon. Why don't you share the boat with me? He carefully helped me aboard, making me feel a bit flattered.
The man's name was Emily Brooks. His family had been merchants for generations, and he had some business to attend to in Hangzhou.
As he spoke, he handed me a cup of hot tea.
Raindrops pounded the boat's roof. The cabin was small, and Emily sat close to me.
Take this umbrella, Mississippi. Be careful on your way back. He handed me an oil paper umbrella.
I looked at it suspiciously, but it wasn't some strange soul-catching umbrella. I was overthinking. How should I return it to you?
Just as I spoke, the boat suddenly jolted, and I fell into his arms. He gently reached out to steady me.
Sorry, the wind suddenly picked up on the lake. The boatman's voice came from outside the cabin.
My face turned bright red because my hand had landed on that spot. Being so close, I could feel his heart beating hotly. Emily turned his head and coughed a few times to hide his embarrassment. I quickly got up. Oh no, he must think I'm some kind of pervert. As soon as the boat docked, I mumbled a polite phrase and hurriedly left, not watching my step, and fell flat on my face. Emily tried to help me, but covered in mud, I scrambled up and ran. So embarrassing. We had only met twice, and I had already touched the handsome guys. The shopkeeper stormed into the room, kicking my empty basket.
John Lee, you useless good-for-nothing.
If I hadn't dodged quickly, I would have taken the full brunt of his kick. My arm got scratched by the medicine counter, leaving a red mark.
3 coins for lost work, deducted from next month's wages.
A man in a green robe walked in, holding a folding fan.
Mr. Carter, have you considered the proposal to acquire Baoji?
William Carter nodded and bowed.
About the price, I think.
The man suddenly noticed me crouching in the corner and helped me up. It was Emily Brooks again. What a coincidence.
Did he hit you?
Emily's expression changed, and I noticed a flash of anger in her eyes. But in an instant, she smiled at William Carter.
The price is negotiable, Mr. Carter. Feel free to name it.
I quickly understood that Emily wanted to turn Baoji into a restaurant. Turning a pharmacy into a restaurant seemed like an exciting venture.
Wait, this is right up my alley.
I eagerly recommended myself, saying I could cook a few dishes. Emily tapped my nose with her fan.
Jessica, we are destined to meet, so of course, I will keep you.
When she smiled, she was truly captivating. I instinctively covered my face, feeling a strange emotion spreading inside me. Emily gifted me a thin silk white pomegranate dress, with intricate patterns on the fabric, very exquisite and beautiful.
That day, I saw your clothes were dirty, and I happened to pass by a tailor shop and saw this dress, so I bought it for you.
This was the first time I wore women's clothing since I arrived here. After changing, I felt a bit uneasy looking at her. Emily walked up, untied my high ponytail, gently tied my hair with a ribbon, and then took off her jade hairpin and placed it in my hair.
It's too valuable.
Just as I was about to refuse, Emily stopped me. I looked up at her, noticing her thick eyelashes fluttering, her high nose bridge, her thin lips slightly moving, and below that, her Adam's apple. I swallowed hard.
Know this strange feeling in my body.
I greedily wanted to breathe in her scent while pinching myself to control it.
Alice, what's wrong?
Hearing my heavy breathing, she looked a bit surprised but didn't avoid me.
Have you really thought this through?
My mind was foggy, and before I could say no, she kissed me. What a strange feeling. I felt like I was floating on clouds, my whole body soft and weak. I gradually let go of my hand that was pinching myself, wrapped my arms around her neck, and started responding to her. Emily pushed me onto the bed, her hair disheveled. Then she reached out, untied the red canopy, and leaned over me. So this is how it feels, so subtle. Inside the soft canopy, waves of passion unfolded. I had indeed spent the night with Emily Brooks. My feelings were incredibly complicated.
With my carefree lifestyle, am I really not going to get into serious trouble?
I glanced at myself, wearing only a thin undergarment, and then at him, looking completely content beside me.
Wife!
Seeing the surprised look on my face, he said.
What, are you trying to deny it? Narrator, as he spoke, he stroked my ankle, which tickled.
I tried to pull my foot back, but he held on tightly. Given the traditional values of ancient times, if I didn't marry him, it would be like a cat trying to shake off sticky rice, impossible. Emily Brooks soon came to propose.
In ancient times, John Lee only had a sister and a brother-in-law who worked as a constable. When they heard Mr. Brooks was proposing, they couldn't stop smiling.
Oh, Alice, if you marry him, you'll enjoy endless wealth and prosperity. Mr. Brooks just opened a new tavern, and you'll be the landlady.
I looked at the courtyard filled with redwood boxes, brimming with jewelry and gold. Emily Brooks was indeed generous.
Single for 24 years, and now suddenly fast-tracking to marriage. If my mom knew I had landed such a wealthy husband, she'd throw a 3-day banquet.
Alice! Narrator, he called as he walked into the courtyard. The wedding is approaching. Let me take you shopping for some items. Narrator, before I could agree, he took my hand and led me out.
Take your time. We won't leave the door open for you tonight. Narrator. I almost tripped again. Who knew the Lee family was so bold?
Clothes, embroidered shoes, hairpins, handkerchiefs, he bought everything. From the looks of it, he nearly bought out the entire street. The sun was scorching. I tiptoed to gently wipe the sweat off his forehead. He smiled, caught my hand, and kissed it lightly. I blushed again. There was a small stall selling sugar paintings, surrounded by children. Emily Brooks eagerly squeezed through to buy one for me. I was looking at some ceramic trinkets when I overheard a few women discussing a strange event in town.
William Carter passed away in such a terrible way, his face was unrecognizable. My husband caught a glimpse at the scene and couldn't sleep for 3 days.
William Carter is dead? A chill ran down my spine. For some reason, I thought of Emily Brooks.
Oh dear, could it be as Master Robert Brown said? Some evil spirit at work?
Emily Brooks. Ethan Green.
Wife, what are you thinking about? Narrator, his familiar voice now seemed chilling. He placed his hand on my shoulder, and it felt like cold snake scales.
I looked up at him suddenly. He was holding the sugar painting, smiling at me, but the smile didn't reach his eyes. He held the sugar painting to my lips. I lightly licked it, and he wiped the sugar off my lips with his hand. I saw the women walking away and turned my head distractedly. Emily Brooks grabbed my chin and turned my head back.
They're just irrelevant people.
On the way back, feeling uneasy, I bought a bottle of Realgar wine. It was almost the Dragon Boat Festival, and I intended to test him. At the Dragon Boat Festival gathering, Emily Brooks raised her wine cup with a leisurely smile.
Alice, you're in quite a mood today, thinking of drinking.
It's the Dragon Boat Festival. Isn't it wonderful for the two of us to drink together?
Though inwardly I was calculating. If he really was the serpent demon Ethan Green, why would he keep hiding his identity from me?
Emily laughed heartily and then downed his drink in one go. He looked at me steadily, placing his hand on my face.
Alice, whatever you want me to do, I'll do it, as long as you say so.
I felt a bit flustered and drank a few cups myself.
Emily showed no unusual signs, only a slight flush on his cheeks. It seemed I was overthinking.
He grabbed my hand and placed it on his abdomen.
Thinking back to that day, I really do miss it.
I shyly kicked him lightly, but he took advantage and squeezed between my legs, leaning lazily against me.
We're still in the restaurant. Don't be reckless.
Oh, how would you like me to be reckless?
With such a beauty in my arms, even a saint would lose control. My hand tangled in his ink-black hair, my cheeks flushed, making his handsome face appear even more alluring.
Downstairs, the performers were singing, Spring Sways Like a Thread, pausing to adjust the flower ornaments, stealing a glance in the mirror. How could you, with your beauty, let time flow away like water? The song stirred my emotions. I boldly kissed him, my hands moving to remove his clothes.
Suddenly, the door was flung open.
John Lee, someone is looking for you outside.
I quickly covered the disheveled Emily and suspiciously slipped out of the restaurant. Outside, a monk in a robe pulled me into an alley, about to speak.
This was Michael King?
Your husband is a 1,000-year-old serpent demon.
I think you're the one spreading nonsense.
I was about to push him away when Michael King, in a hurry, took something out.
Look at this, my friend.
A Mauchon sex life mirror. How did he get it? In the mirror was Ethan Green. Ethan stood atop a mountain of corpses, his hair disheveled, eyes blood red, sitting on a dark throne absorbing demon essences. A flower demon crawled out, trembling, trying to escape. Ethan pointed a finger, and the flower demon instantly tore apart, blood and flesh splattering, its essence flying into Ethan's hand.
Foolish.
The gruesome scene made me shudder.
Emily Brooks is Emily Brooks. Ethan Green is Ethan Green.
I ran out of the alley.
You're confused. The characters for March Together spell green.
A thunderous boom sounded in the sky, and I froze.
Suddenly, it started to rain. I walked along the embankment, drenched, but I didn't care. I stepped on something and looked down. It was a finely crafted hairpin.
Miss, you picked up my hairpin.
This familiar line again? How could they use the same trick twice? I turned around angrily, and there stood Sophia.
Are you two ever going to stop?
Alice, you.
He was about to approach when a green shadow suddenly appeared between us. That familiar aura and expression, where was the gentle Emily Brooks?
My dear, did you think a mere cup of wine could reveal my true form?
Ethan. You travel through time to steal my destiny.
Travel through time. I remembered the formation from that day. From what Sophia said, the hairpin, the umbrella, the Westlake romance, it was originally meant to be his and John Lee's destiny.
But Ethan had disguised himself as Emily Brooks and used these tricks on me before Sophia could.
My heart sank. I was just a pawn in his revenge against Sophia. Ethan still held the oil paper umbrella he had given me on the boat. Now, it emitted a ghostly light, gradually shedding its outer layer to reveal dark patterns. It was indeed a soul-suppressing umbrella.
I said, I want both the umbrella and the person.
Years ago, you stole my umbrella and came to the human world to repay John Lee, almost costing me my throne as the Demon King.
So you deliberately got involved.
Sophia suddenly attacked, but Ethan easily deflected it with the umbrella.
I'd like to see how you plan to rekindle your romance with my wife.
Ethan said, laughing as he wrapped his arm around my waist. I bit down hard on his arm.
Good bite! No matter how much you hate me, you are still my betrothed, and we've already consummated our marriage.
Ethan pushed the umbrella forward, and a burst of green light knocked Sophia to the ground. Sophia spat out a mouthful of blood and lay there, looking deranged.
Ha! Traveling through time, aren't you afraid of divine retribution?
I can't wait to see you get struck down.
He gave me a complicated look before covering his chest and disappearing in a cloud of white mist.
Our wedding is near, yet such trouble arises. It truly saddens me.
I won't marry you.
You have no choice.
At dawn, I was dragged up to be washed and dressed. The room was decorated festively, but the bright red couldn't hide the eerie atmosphere. The matchmaker's face was strange, her smile grotesque, as if her mouth had been torn. I didn't know where Ethan found this tree spirit.
First comb to the end, may you respect each other. Second comb to the end, may you fly together.
The sky was overcast, and the streets were shrouded in mist. Amidst the sound of Swona, I was helped out. I wanted to struggle, but my feet moved towards the bridal sedan chair against my will. Ethan had cast a spell on me, rendering me powerless, like a puppet. Through the veil, I saw a blurry figure. Ethan was dressed in red today. He extended his hand.
On such a joyous day, why the long face? My dear, you should be happy. Smile.
My face moved involuntarily, forcing a smile. The crowd watching seemed strange too, a lifeless bunch. This must be a replica of Hangzhou's streets in the demon realm. When we reached Ethan's residence, he extended his hand to help me.
First bow to heaven and earth.
What heaven and earth? I am heaven and earth.
Ethan said, kicking the rat demon aside.
My dear only needs to accept the worship of the demons with me.
Then he led me to his throne. I remembered everything I saw in the mirror and felt nauseous. The disguised demons all bowed down.
Long live the king and queen.
Enough with the formalities. I need to take my wife to the bridal chamber.
Congratulations, King.
I gripped a silver needle and pricked my finger, trying to stay awake. 1, 2, 3. I silently counted, ready to act if he committed another atrocity. Suddenly, there was a commotion outside. I heard the sounds of battle.
Sophia has broken in.
He grabbed my collar with a fierce grip.
I need you to help me.
I could feel the cold sweat on my back.
Tell me what you need, and I'll do my best.
If I refused, he might actually snap my neck.
Help me cultivate.
He licked his dry lips nervously.
This cultivation, is it proper?
Why don't you find out?
The thunder grew louder and closer, and I felt as if my internal organs were about to shift. As a mere mortal, how could I withstand such pressure? I suddenly coughed up blood.
Lily, the heavenly tribulation is meant for me. He placed his hand on my neck, where he had left a red mark. This is the hairpin I gave you, and you're still wearing it.
Ethan lightly pressed his lips together.
You must have some feelings for me too, right? Lily, even if I could turn back time, I wouldn't regret it.
In that moment, he seemed to transform back into Emily Brooks, but I could no longer tell whether I favored Ethan or Emily.
Sophia, take her away.
I knew he was using a spell to communicate. The hairpin glowed faintly, and I was lifted into the air, slowly flying away. I watched his solitary figure on the high tower grow more distant, his robes billowing in the fierce wind. I vaguely saw a tear at the corner of his eye. Do snakes shed tears? The thunder crashed down on the city walls, the lightning from the heavenly tribulation illuminating the entire demon city. Ethan stood there, neither sad nor happy. He had indeed committed many wrongs, but I almost forgot that he too had crawled out from a pile of flesh and blood. I suddenly remembered a lantern festival in Qingzhe. Emily Brooks had taken me to see the brilliant lights. That night, the West Lake was filled with boats, and we stood on the embankment, the moonlight filtering through the trees like scattered snow. He gently held my hand and said, "May every year be like today." I suddenly felt something cold on my face. When I reached out, I realized my face was covered in tears. Sophia held me, ready to take me away, but the mirror of life suddenly flew up, circling around me. This time, I finally saw my face clearly in the mirror. It was a woman with a serene and compassionate expression. Memories flooded back, and I suddenly recalled many distant moments.
I've waited a long time for you to awaken, Winter Holmes, holding a monk staff.
I am Winter Holmes.
My name is Winter Holmes. From the moment my spiritual awareness awakened, the entire 9 heavens was a land of ice and cold. Year after year, I resided in the 9 heavens. The days were incredibly dull, with only me as the sole being, except for the occasional visits from junior immortals paying their respects. The 9 heavens was barren, so after much thought, I transplanted a few lotus flowers from Guanyin's lotus pond to create a cold pool. I also gathered various spiritual creatures to place in the pool, even stealing a few koi from the Queen Mother's jade pool. But it seemed that no living creature could withstand the extreme cold of the 9 heavens. Just as I was despairing over the withering lotus flowers in the pool, a touch of green caught my eye. Amidst the lotus petals, a small green snake lay curled up, shivering.
How strange. Where did this creature come from? Curious.
Oh. I suddenly remembered. The last time I descended to the mortal realm to collect moonlight, this little creature must have wrapped itself around my ankle. Perhaps it had just hatched and mistook me for its mother. With a wave of my hand, I brought it up to the 9 heavens.
This little thing from the mortal world could actually withstand the severe cold. Curious.
I poked its soft, limp body, and to my surprise, it transformed into a delicate, jade-like young boy.
Heavens! He transformed. Shocked.
He was unclothed, so I quickly used a bit of magic to dress him in green robes.
Don't be afraid. I am Winter Holmes, the deity who governs the 9 heavens. Friendly, though, truth be told, there wasn't much in the 9 heavens for me to govern.
He hadn't been in the cold pool for long, yet he had already transformed into a human form, indicating his remarkable potential.
Oh, are you a mystical being? Curious.
What should I do? I had secretly kept a little mystical creature.
What is your name? Friendly.
The boy looked at me blankly. I asked him his name, and he shook his head in confusion.
How about I call you Osmanthus Cake? Cheerful, in Chana's palace, there was an osmanthus tree. Whenever it bloomed, she would make cakes from the flowers and offer them to me. I was quite fond of them.
The boy didn't react much, seemingly dissatisfied, but he only looked at me timidly.
I'll call you Ethan Green. Excited.
The High Star Lord once told me that Ethan was a good name, meaning very intelligent. I hoped that this intelligent being named Ethan Green could bring some liveliness to the 9 heavens. Ethan grabbed my collar, his eyes burning with desperation.
I need you to help me.
Tell me what you need, and I'll do my best. Narrator, serious if I said no, he might really harm me.
Help me cultivate, he said, licking his dry lips.
This cultivation, is it proper?
Why don't you find out?
He grabbed my collar, his eyes intense.
I need you to help me.
Tell me what you need, and I'll do my best.
If I said no, he might really snap my neck.
Help me cultivate, he said, licking his dry lips.
This cultivation, is it proper?
Why don't you find out?
The heavenly tribulation had passed, leaving the demon city in ruins. I knelt on the desolate land, sifting through the rubble. My fingers became raw and bloody. The rain continued to fall, and Sophia silently held an umbrella over me. I couldn't hold on any longer, covering my face with my hands, crying quietly.
We'll find a way.
Suddenly, a small green snake slithered out from under the earth, raising its head to look at me.
Are you Ethan?
The little snake obediently jumped onto my hand, then curled up and slept in my palm. I took it back to the mortal world, caring for it. It slept most of the time, and I could only use my divine breath to stabilize its vital signs.
You've done well.
Sophia came with a band to propose marriage, but I declined.
I am ultimately not John Lee, nor am I your wife.
He looked a bit forlorn but quickly hid his sorrow, smiling at me.
I understand.
After that, he disappeared. Many years later, I passed through Qingzhe and saw him wearing a plain robe, sitting in front of a tavern, drinking and listening to music. A child ran over with a string of dried meat.
Sir, this is next month's tuition.
Sophia waved his fan, got up, took the child's hand, and left. As he brushed past me, he smiled faintly.
That pink dress suits you well.
Just as I was about to exchange a few words with him, Sophia had already vanished into the crowd. Perhaps this was a good ending for him. Michael King also became a revered monk. On the day he passed away, I went to the temple. He was seated in front of the Buddha, surrounded by the lingering scent of incense.
Great deity, you have come.
He had spent his life capturing demons and protecting the people, but he had also hurt the innocent. Michael King told me a story from his time in the heavens.
Back then, I was just a little boy tending the alchemy furnace and was scolded by the Star Lord for dozing off.
I happened to pass by on a cloud and persuaded the Star Lord to be lenient. After the Star Lord left, I handed the little boy a small mirror from my dressing case.
This mirror can keep you alert. Don't be careless next time.
Later, the boy descended to the mortal world, and the mirror came with him. I understood then that it was the mirror of life. Michael King was very old. I looked at his withered hands.
If your merits are complete and you can return to the heavens, I will come to welcome you.
Then I thought again.
But there's nothing worth returning to. Perhaps it's better not to go back.
The little green snake coiled around my arm seemed to listen, half understanding. The place where I currently reside is picturesque, with a hot spring pool in the back mountain. Just as I was undressing, a little snake eagerly slithered over, wanting to jump into the hot spring as well.
What a cheeky little snake.
Suddenly, with a bang, the green snake transformed into a human, and coincidentally, he ended up lying on my chest. The steam from the pool swirled around us, making his face blush slightly. Ethan Green had gone through a heavenly tribulation, losing most of his memories. I took the opportunity to pull him into my embrace and deceive him.
You heartless man. I went through so much trouble to save your life. Don't you dare run off with that white rabbit spirit again.
Ethan looked at me with deep guilt, fully believing that we had been a couple of monster spouses for hundreds of years. I covered my mouth and chuckled. Who would have thought that the next day, he sent invitations to all the monsters?
We've been together without a proper status for so many years. It's time to have a proper wedding.
Terrified, I grabbed him by the collar and flew out of the mountain.
Why are you so panicked, my dear?
Nonsense, they would love nothing more than to tear you apart, and you're handing out invitations. Just as I breathed a sigh of relief, I turned to see him bowing to a toad spirit holding a trident at the crossroads.
Brother, next month is my joyous occasion with my dear.
The toad spirit blinked and squinted at Ethan, then dropped the trident in fear.
Oh my, the Demon King isn't dead.
With a ribbit, it kicked its legs and ran off. Ethan looked at me, puzzled.
You used to be quite the troublemaker, spitting at foxes and bullying toads, so they're all terrified of you.
Ethan furrowed his brows, seemingly determined to sever ties with his past self.
But this wedding...
No worries. We'll use this tree as our witness. It has seen thousands of years of changes, and now it will witness us.
Ethan smiled, knelt down, and looked at me with deep affection.
In life and death, we are bound together. Holding your hand.
Oh my! The tree suddenly cried out, uprooting itself and running down the cliff, covering its leafy head.
I've guarded this mountain diligently. Please spare me, Demon King.
We were left speechless, staring at the large hole where the tree had been, realizing just how much fear Ethan had instilled in these monsters.
Why do they call me the Demon King, my dear?
Let me explain. It's a title of respect in the monster world because your surname is King. If my surname were Lee, I'd be called Demon Lee. Got it?
He nodded thoughtfully. We came across a tavern that served all three realms. As I was leisurely sipping tea, a crow spirit approached, eyeing Ethan suspiciously.
Demon King?
Indeed, that's me. And who might you be?
I nearly spat out my tea. Ethan took out a handkerchief and carefully wiped the tea from my lips.
What's wrong, my dear?
Your handsome face took me by surprise.
Code of Conduct for Men. 1. Do not reveal your true identity as a demon. Your tale is only for your wife to see. 2. Memorize the 3 obediences and 4 virtues. Follow your wife when she goes out, obey her commands, blindly follow her even if she's wrong, wait patiently while she dresses up, remember her birthday, endure her scolding, and be willing to spend money on her. 3. Got it? Ethan Green nodded vigorously.
I'll memorize it by tonight.
That night, Ethan climbed into bed and hugged Anna tightly, making her hold her breath in surprise.
I seem to have forgotten how to do the things between husband and wife. Can you teach me, my dear?
Blushing, Anna started to unbutton his clothes.
It's okay, these things get easier with practice, and it's not like we haven't done this before.
As she fumbled, Ethan suddenly flipped over and whispered in her ear.
Lily, you haven't improved at all. Let me handle it.
Anna widened her eyes in shock. He tricked her again. He never lost his memory. Ethan leaned down and silenced her unspoken words with his lips.